Welcome to ReReview, where we watch movies from our past with a perspective from today. Your hosts are Matt, Bobby, and Austin, and we love the films from our youth, so we're taking a look back to see if they still hold up. On this episode, we're discussing The Girl Next Door. It was released in 2004, directed by Luke Greenfield, stars Emile Hirsch, Nicholas Dodds, Elisha Cuthbert, and Timothy Olyphant. This movie is about love and porn, or porn and love. I don't know, one of those. Now, this is a fair warning. We're spoiling a 20-year-old movie, so if you haven't seen it, we will be revealing key plot points. Man, so this is like, is this the tail end of like the high school film type of thing that, you know, really happened between what, the late 90s and the early 2000s? When did this kind of give me a high school movie feel finish off? I can't think of what the last one was, but this feels like when this stuff started tailing off, because by this time it was probably already American Pie 8, right?
Yeah, I think this actually came out the same year as American Wedding, I think.
Which was what, 3 or 4?
Yeah. I mean, when the American Pie kids are growing up and getting married, that's when you know the genre is gone, right?
But this movie at the end of the day is trying to channel those same feels, right? That American Pie, let's be risque. They were probably going to see lots of tits and ass at the end of the day. Oh, and by the way, they're all in high school and they look 40.
Yeah. We'll go with that. Well, yeah. I mean, it's funny because I feel like watching this, I hadn't seen it in a long time. 2, the time I did see it was on TV.
Very different experience, I'm assuming.
This one being unrated.
I can't even imagine the TV cut of this.
Watching this movie, it feels like there's 3 movies squished in here. One of them is that high school movie you're talking about.
Yeah.
The other one is a general coming of age story, I think doesn't necessarily have to be in high school. It can be, you know, anything. It could be a serendipity or something like that, where it's like, you know, you're trying to find, you know, that relationship with somebody that doesn't seem to quite click, you know?
Yeah, figure out who you are at the same time. Yep.
Yeah. And then like a little bit of, you know, a adventure movie.
You forgot the 4th category.
What was the 4th category?
Porn.
But is it though? Is it? Before I jump ahead too far, I would forgive it if it were at least that. This movie never went that direction, and to be honest, I much rather have preferred it because at least it would have leaned in.
Well, they did lean into the fact that like all of the porn guys are like villains, basically, which is a, you know, total cliche, I think.
Well, I guess we can't get to the porn. You know, in high school, it seems like, you know, that's the thing you do. You watch porn, right? So they're definitely trying to tie into, again.
What? No, well, hold on. Wait,
who
what?
Are you speaking for?
I don't. Yeah, don't be putting anyone in any category they don't belong in prematurely, sir.
Let's talk about premature anything.
Oh no.
We have devolved into 12-year-olds.
Yes, we totally did. And this movie is encouraging that. You know, we get the high school montage. They're getting their yearbook photos taken. What is it? Who's their home buddy? Eli? When we first meet him, is he wearing the Vivid hat? I think he is, right? From the get-go.
Was he? I didn't
was.
notice until a little later on.
So they definitely wanted to, you know, cue us in to anyone who might know that Vivid is a porn studio, and he was going to be the guy who was watching porn throughout the entire film in very awkward senses. But we get to meet Matthew, whatever, our hero. And I think, you know, as we started watching this, we quickly learned we were getting into the discussion over the Manic Pixie Dream Girl. So Elisha Cuthbert, Danielle, really, I think fit that, yeah?
At the very least, at the beginning, it did. I mean, at least by definition. But she kind of came out of nowhere. She was this, you know, come escape with me type character, right? Oh, I'm going to do all these things and show you all these things. You know, it's the riding on the magic carpet ride, right? All of a sudden.
Yeah, for sure.
And I do think
polar opposite type.
They
teaches.
Try, I think, to do something with her character that I think that they don't usually do with the Manic Pixie Dream Girl. But it is funny now that I think about it. If I think of like a Ramona Flowers, right? somebody who
Mhm.
definitely falls in that category, at least, to a larger extent. It's the same kind of thing. It's she comes in, introduces a whole new world. Oh, and then her past caught up with her. And that's kind of
Mhm.
like her arc is like, oh, you have to accept my past, or this is the things that, are now the challenges, right? Because like that's her past is what creates a good chunk of the challenge in this.
Mm-hmm.
I think Bobby said it best. Like meeting her was kind of the worst thing that happened to him, right?
Yeah. Their reactions together were just kind of like, I mean, I understood why he was interested in her. And then,
Oh, do you?
and then she said that she liked the way he looked at her. But then I was confused by some of their interaction. Like basically, like, especially in the beginning when she just seemed to delight in his misgivings
Suffering.
and yes.
Well, I mean, that's the earliest bit I think we get to see, right? We get introduced to what Paul Dano as Klitz, Christopher Marquette as Eli. We meet, Matthew, that's like their crew. We learn very early on that Eli is a horn dog and is basically telling all his friends they need to have sex with as many women as they can while he's just watching porn at home. But we do
He's like the bad advice trope.
Yeah. Looking at that core friendship, they represent the nerds, right? It's like AV kids and poli sci kid and what was Klitz?
Like, were they though? I mean, I kind of got that from the friends a little bit, but like, they were more like if this were freaks and geeks, like they would probably be more in the freaks category, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, the original idea is that he feels like there's the whole yearbook question, like, what are you going to remember most? And he feels like he's missing out because all he did was study, basically.
Yes, he started everyone else making out.
Right.
Oh no, he wasn't getting drunk at parties and, getting mugged and stuff. Like, oh no, he got into Georgetown. Oh no, so horrible.
Right.
Like, I got it. It's like, I remember when I got into Georgetown. Peace out.
Right, exactly.
But his parents can't afford Georgetown. We learned that.
Yeah, I guess all their money went into that house because they clearly had money at some point.
They were in a very nice house in Pasadena, right? Is that
well,
what it was?
that's why they kill you on the student loans. You can get a student loan and then be good to go
for 40 years payment off. We get our first scene between Danielle and Matthew. It's the look of her walking into the house, and then you get the awkward moment of her getting undressed and he's staring, and hearing, Bobby, your reaction of a hide, run away, like get down, stop looking. And it just sets up that scene for, I think, all that awkwardness that you're mentioning, Bobby, her coming into the house, lying to the parents, well, actually being honest, like, here, I'm house sitting for my aunt or whatever it was, but then kind of putting him in that awkward situation of, it's time for you to run naked through the street. And it kind of just followed that over and over until he decided, oh, I learned that she's a porn star and I better bang her because my friend Eli gave me the worst advice ever received.
Yeah, I mean, why do you think that other than like just having like an inciting incident with the having him strip, like, do you think that served her character? I mean, like, why? I mean, I guess the whole idea of her was to get him out of his comfort zone.
Mm-hmm. My question was, where did he get the inner tube?
Yeah, he stole it from somebody's house, right? So getting him out of his comfort zone.
I mean, it's you're right. The delight she took in his suffering was, I think, without a doubt, very forced, because we couldn't really tell, like, what do we care about this character for? And I think I know, Matt, that was your heavy concern throughout the majority of the film is who in these characters do you even like? Who do you love?
But like, see, and that's my thing, right? Like, watching this, if the whole point of this movie is his life was terrible, he missed out on a bunch of stuff that was either important. So like, we'll say the trope where like the dad missed out on the kids growing up or whatever because he's too busy with work, something where I was like, okay, well, this kid really missed out, or he's really like pent up or something, where like he's, in this terrible scenario where she comes in and relieves him of, at least to say there is a bigger world out there. But all those things were terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, at no point did she go like, here is, life is so much more than studying. It's this and it's this. And when's the last time you looked at, the star? None of that. It was skinny dipping in somebody's pool, or technically they weren't skinny dipping, but, jumping into somebody's pool and basically doing terrible things.
They accidentally ran into his teachers and his peers way too much.
I mean,
every single thing they did that was out of his comfort zone, someone who was awkward happened to be there.
Isn't that like we were thinking of the strip club scene, but in terms of like the pool scene, yes, it just happened to be that he's at his principal's house jumping into the pool. Like, definitely very convenient for the adults in his life who are supposed to, I think they showed like they respect him because he's supposed to be the class president or whatever he is. And like you said, Matt, early on, like, how did he get voted in given the sheer lack of respect that the rest of the student body gave him at the conference or whatever it was? Yeah, he didn't necessarily have the personality for that same type. He was a shitty politician. How's that? He seemed like a very shitty politician already.
My guess is they thought he was going to be fun and he turned out not to be. I have a whole backstory for that lined up.
Yes.
Like, I guess the only thing I could really imagine is if they voted for him as a joke. Like, wouldn't it be hilarious if this nobody became president? Or maybe it was literally like no one wanted to do it. Everyone else in this school was too cool to be student council president. And so literally it was him or one of his friends. And that was it. No one else wanted to do it because everyone else is a 37-year-old, actor from Beverly Hills.
These kind of high school movies make me very uncomfortable with the bullies and all the stuff. I'm just like,
is it because you go back to memories?
No, I mean, no, it's not like I was bullied or anything. It's just that I just don't like seeing it. It's just like,
I would not imagine you were, sir.
I mean, I have other problems about high school and don't like seeing that kind of stuff. But I mean, it's just like, we're doing the high school bullies again.
I mean, I think that to your point or whatever, this is, and I totally felt that with a lot of and I don't even want to remember the names, like Hunter and Troy or whatever they were so one-dimensionally created that either they are written by somebody that really didn't like those people, and so they've just continued the stereotype of what they are. Because I went to high school, and I don't think I ever ran into anyone that was that flat of a character. Now, this was 2004, so I had graduated the year before, right? So this wasn't in my generation, and I saw American Pie and they had the same characters. Yeah. But then I guess to its credit, American Pie had, what was his name? He was on like the lacrosse team or whatever. He was one of the main characters, but he was actually somewhat like he read poetry and stuff like that. I can't remember.
Oh my gosh. I know exactly who you're talking about. I don't remember his name.
Yes.
It was Oz. I don't remember the actor's name, but
so
it
was kind of against
Chris
type, right?
Klein.
Chris Klein. Oh man.
Good job, Bobby.
Those actors who were everywhere. And then now I'm like, where'd they go? Yeah. So, I mean, he was kind of against type. This one, it's like, literally they had like the spin wheel of stereotypes from high school. And it's exactly all of them at once.
As we go through, like, we think of the parties and stuff, one of the things that I kept anticipating because they did it once, so I wasn't sure when things would be real or not, was his dream sequences.
Yes.
Like trying to figure out when something was a dream sequence or not. And I think when they have their first, good kiss at the party, I was convinced that was all dream sequence because the way it was cut seemed so much like it was all a dream.
Yeah, I was pretty impressed with the dream sequences. They really like caught me off guard, and I thought they did a really good job of like, wow, this really would be a bad scenario. And they were pretty over the top. And I thought the dream sequences were fun. They did a pretty good job of like putting me off guard and getting into the character's head a bit.
But did it have the counterpoint to like what Austin said? You get to the point where like you don't know what is actually real anymore. And so whenever something turns out to be real, you don't even know if it actually was or not. Yeah, I agree. I think that
first kiss was.
Yeah, that party kiss, I was just like, I don't know what this is. This just feels like it was all made up in his head. And then it turned out it wasn't.
But is it weird that the character, I guess that was Matthew, continues to like bounce between like I'm the studious kid, I'm the I don't know what to do with myself awkward person, to like that dream sequence where it's just like I'm just gonna go in for the kiss. And then we see him continually kind of I don't even want to say it adapt because it seems rigid. It's like he's turning on different switches, especially as Eli told him like, oh, you just need to be like a man whore and treat her like shit. So he does. Or like the guy who goes to the porn convention and there he's trying to get her again. It just always felt, it didn't feel like he was learning through his changes. I guess it was that he was just playing that act every single time.
I would definitely agree that as a character, he just wasn't there as far as like being unique at all or having his own like aspirations. He didn't feel like a real person at all. And considering he's the main character, that feels like a huge disservice that he's whatever the scene needs him to be, and as a result, he was nothing. Even to the very end. Like I was just like, they're trying to make it seem this triumphant thing or whatever, and I just don't care. I didn't care that he succeeds or doesn't succeed at all because I wasn't invested in him at all, like whatsoever.
Well, yeah, no, I agree. I think we can talk about the only character to invest yourselves in, which is Kelly, right? That's at the end of the day, we want to be C-level porn producers like Kelly. No, that sound like a great thing.
I think Matt totally nailed it when he said that an interesting movie would be the main character Matthew and that guy kind of like having like this weird mentor-mentee relationship, but he's actually like a good guy who helps and not a villain. I think I want to see that movie.
But that's the weird thing that they tried to set up, right? They really were going for that in that broken sense of Timothy Olyphant being this rough around the edges, you know, bad guy to Danielle, but also kind of good guy to Matthew. But then he's fucking up his business, so he punches him in the head quite a bit. But then by the end of the movie, he's getting cigars from him and has a smirk on his face like, you got me, kid. Good job by you. It's like, what?
No,
he appreciates hustle, I guess.
And I guess that was the thing that kind of threw me off is once he showed up, and I think I said it, like I know I'm supposed to hate this guy. He's supposed to be sleazy. He's supposed to be, you know, bad for everyone. He's toxic for Danielle. He's technically toxic for Matt as a character. But and this is 100% Timothy Olyphant just being a charismatic motherfucker that I was drawn into him as a character, like just his performance that he's doing. And I wanted to see that movie where honestly, the relationship between Matthew and Danielle, I couldn't have cared less about. It had no weight to it whatsoever, to the point where I was like, just remove that. I don't need the romance thing. Just have it be a guy who doesn't know his place in life and dreams of things that he thinks he wants, and meeting Kelly shows him that those things aren't what's really important to him. Maybe the things he was doing up until then wasn't necessarily important either, but he at least finds himself as a character. And Kelly being it's like the cool uncle, right? Yeah. The cool uncle always wants to be the one that, you know, you like and you love him and all that kind of stuff, whatever. But then every once in a while he gets you in trouble because he says that thing. He kind of does like what Eli does, gives you the advice that it works for him because he can do it, but it doesn't work for you because you're awkward or something like that. He can't quite pull it off. That movie just sounds incredibly interesting to me. And this one, just the lack of romantic chemistry between the two characters just made me not really interested. And so when he came up and that stuff started kind of happening, especially like when they were in the high school parking lot, you know, and he showed up, I was like, I like this movie. This movie is actually feeling better. Like, let's run with this instead. And that's not what happened. And then they couldn't quite decide. Maybe it was because of the performance. Like, oh, he was supposed to be a villain. And then maybe Timothy just kind of ran with it. And they're like, actually, maybe we should have it so that no one was actually a bad guy. It was just conflicting interest. That's all.
They really laid it out like that, right? I guess it's a bit frustrating because you're right. I'm into this movie you just proposed, but that's more of an indictment on what we just watched than anything else in terms of how that goes. We have these kids. There's all these scenarios that they're put into. I think we were over halfway through the movie, and Matt, you were like, "When does this actually start?" In terms of what's actually going on here. This was really tied around an emphasis for porn, but also a de-emphasis. It was really about sex education. Do you remember sex education in high school?
High school. I saw that stuff in like elementary/junior high.
So what you're saying is you're advanced. Good for you. It is funny to think about in terms of going back into the old days, and we have the adults essentially making that comment at some point near the end, which was, do you remember how sex ed was back when we were kids? And they even kind of hinted at that for the videos early in the movie, that it was, I don't know, generic and didn't provide a lot of information. And now they go ahead and film the quintessential sex ed movie, and it sells everywhere. You're a teenager. You come up with bright ideas. You hang out with mogul porn producers like Hugo Posh. Do you think this was a good idea to get the money back? Going the porn route? Sorry, sex education route.
I don't see how the producer guy went for it.
You mean after getting his dildo statue back?
Yeah, like I don't see why he went like, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's do it. Like, it seems too out of his wheelhouse, kind of. Like, it seems like something that a guy like that wouldn't be interested in trying to do.
You're being realistic, and I think this kind of hits on quite a few things we found very unrealistic. I know, Matt, you called out some of the camera things and just what they were using, and then realizing that a VHS shouldn't have been what they spit out at the end. I asked the question of how they took the time to actually edit said sex educational video
Overnight?
The overnight
Right.
that he somehow lost because Kelly was able to steal it. It's those type of things.
But did he not keep his like edit files?
Did he use his FireWire 800 to transfer it to his 1 terabyte hard drive that cost $150? And yeah,
let alone we go back to the setup at the bank too, right? We have money that ends up getting stolen by Kelly, but the entire time we're questioning, wait, how did Kelly actually get a hold of that money just because he gave the teller the title of student advisor? Like, there's a lot there, and then she lets him run away anyway to make this movie to get the money back to redeposit, I guess, because she didn't want to get caught.
Yeah, they never
wired-
came back to
Yeah.
the bank. They never resolved. I mean, you assume that situation cleared up, but they didn't go back to it.
I know we're so bad for wanting these little things, because at the end of the day, the movie sure doesn't care. It didn't care at all about this stuff. Kind of wish it did. A little bit. How do we feel about ecstasy speech scene? Are you big on moral fiber?
not whatever was spat out during that little spiel. That entire thing was horrific to watch and to listen to from beginning to end. And I don't know what the takeaway was supposed to be from that, because whatever they thought I was going to take away from it, it's not what I took away from it.
Well, wasn't it just him expressing his love for Danielle?
I don't care.
Yeah, basically.
Who
And then
cares?
also like, well, it was weird because like he saw himself and the guy who won, but like, was that him thinking like I should be there, or he's happy he's not, he's happy he's I couldn't tell like what they were trying to say in that moment.
Is the whole thing just a dream sequence? Is that what we're coming down to? She's still driving the same car at the end. He's the one in a BMW. Maybe it was all a dream.
Holy crap, man. You just blew my mind. The entire movie, we need to, okay. All right, Bobby, you and me, we're going to go back and re-edit this movie. The last scene of this movie is it's going to cut back to him seeing her walk out of her car to the house. And the entire thing was him
Oh,
imagining
right.
what the scenario was going to be. And
Right.
she gets to the door, looks up, sees him. She goes, oh, door closes and credits.
Right.
There we go. That was the movie. That was the movie right there.
So I feel like you do the same stuff. You cut out the F word that was used several times. You cut out the racist jokes because those definitely existed. You think we were better off in 2004, but it felt a little bit 1996, I will say, in terms of some of the jokes that they were pulling off. And I will not let them get away with it was a different time. Aye. But I'm here for this cut. So when are you guys going to deliver it to me? Make sure
We'll
Kelly
give it
doesn't
to you on
steal it.
VHS.
Yeah, give it to me on VHS, and make sure Kelly doesn't actually steal it. One of the things I wrote down, just because I haven't used it in a long time. When was the last time you've been in a limo? What did we use limos for except for prom? Maybe a wedding?
Maybe like 5 years ago.
No, that's good.
That was actually my first time. I didn't do that for.
Oh.
Okay, shit. I just outed myself for the whole prom thing. I had never done that until like a family member, like I guess had credit or something like that, and ended up getting a limo to just go, to a mall, and we went to like a whole bunch of different stuff, whatever. But like it was cool, but limos are so impractical from the sense of like actual usability. Like the idea of it's cool because I think movies like this kind of sell them as something fancy. Like I remember growing up believing that whenever you would have like a movie star show up for like a premiere, they would show up in a limo. And I don't think I've seen a single premiere where you even see them get out of a car. Usually they're just walking down, like they're just showing up. Like, and if they are, it's an SUV or it's like, it's not a limo. Like, I guess that must have been a thing at one point, but it's not definitely a thing I've ever seen during the Oscars or anything like that.
I definitely feel like last limo might have been 10 years plus, and that was for like wine tasting with family. So it feels odd, and I appreciate that you did it for something I'm going to call mundane. You said going to the mall. All I could think of was just like, I got to find a reason to just get a limo for exactly that, to do something just regular. I'm going to get groceries, I guess. There's plenty of room in here for all the groceries. Well, I think it's time, because I don't know. I feel like we've exhausted what we can on this film. Bobby, are you recommending The Girl Next Door?
No.
Oh, wow. Okay. That might be a first. Holy shit.
I think that's a first. The most direct no out of Bobby's mouth I've ever heard.
Maybe watch like Porky's or something instead. I don't know. Like if you're in the mood for some kind of high school movie.
There are other options.
Yeah.
All right. I love it. Straight to the point. Matt, are you recommending The Girl Next Door?
So whenever we watch these, I take notes of things that pop up, things I want to talk about, things that stood out. My notes consist of movies I'd rather be watching, which are, they consist of Superbad, Mean Girls, American Pie, Disturbia, Bring It On, The New Guy, Napoleon Dynamite, 17 Again. Watch any of those. Don't watch this. Don't waste your time.
Okay, I'll be the person that says, after you've gone through Matt's list, then you can watch this one. Then you can add it to the list. Just maybe put it at the bottom, since you may not get too much out of it. Oh my goodness. This was a journey. As always, thank you for listening. And remember, specifically Matt and Bobby, you need to remember, do you know what we are, the three of us? We're a fucking tripod.
I know I'm a tripod. I don't know about the three of us.
Please leave that in at the end. Please cut that in. So as soon as he says that, you put that in we'll lower the volume down, but it'll be an Easter egg at the end.
Oh my gosh.